Six Nations Week 3 is in the bag. I've had a look. I've picked 15 players who I thought played pretty well based on their positions loosely. So all the props, all the loose forwards, outside backs, all those guys. I've picked 15. I've got some stats for them, things that were impressive. You guys can let me know your thoughts and who else you might have had in this team for this third week of the Six Nations. Let's start with the props. First, I got an Irishman in Dave Kilcoyne. Got a start, which is nice, I guess, if they're going to rotate things up around a bit. And he was one guy for a prop who was making a fair few meters with ball in hand. He had 10 runs and 28 meters, which is a very good return. 10. 5 defenders beaten, not quite 10. 10 would have been a right man of the match performance, but 5 defenders beaten is very good. 10 from 10 tackles, so solid scrummaging. Just a good all-round performance from Dave in the number 1 jersey. I've gone with another loose head as my other prop. I've gone with Alan Dell from Scotland. Now, he is kind of marred by the fact that he did concede a couple of big scrum penalties. And I suppose a purist might look at it and say, if you're a prop, you're there to scrummage, and if you can't do that, everything else is superfluous. Yeah, a couple of penalties, I'll admit. 2 penalties at the scrum is not ideal. 6 runs for 11 metres is solid numbers for a prop. 1 defender beaten, but 18 out of 19 tackles. He was Scotland's number 1 tackler. I'm giving him a bit of credit there, despite conceding those 2 penalties. So he is my choice for my other prop. Hooker, I could have gone with a number of guys here, actually. There were a few good performers this week. I've gone with Guillaume Guirado from France. 11 runs for 10 metres is not perhaps all that dynamic, but 6 passes and offload, 16 out of 17 tackles, and 6 out of 7 line-out wins. He just did a bit of everything, man. Good work rate to put in 10 runs, good work rate to put in 16 tackles, 6 passes and offload. So, not his best performance ever, but one of the better performers of the week for me, and I suppose you got to add into that kind of his leadership to get that France team off the ground, because it hadn't been the easiest Six Nations for them thus far. Speaking of captains in the second row, I have gone with Alan Wynne-Jones. This guy he won't get old. Even though he's getting old, he still puts in the numbers, man. 14 runs for 9 metres is less than a metre per run, but 14 runs. The guy is always busy. 6 passes, 2 offloads, 16 out of 17 tackles, which was, again, the number 1 guy for his team. He was the number 1 Welsh tackler at his age and his position. Not always to be expected, but he always puts in a big shift. And, again, leadership, it doesn't come much better than Alan Wynne. Some of the times I noticed with the ref, he wouldn't even say anything. He would just kind of grin, or like a knowing grin. But, yeah, I thought he had a really good performance. Next, from England, I go with George Cruz. He had a good performance for a losing team. 5 runs for 4 metres is, again, not all that dynamic. I'm noticing that's a wee bit of a trend. There are a few guys who bucket, but a lot of locks. I guess their bodies, there's a bin coming down my driveway. It's the first time in a wee while. A lot of locks aren't able to get that body low enough to seemingly be able to make all that many metres. But 5 runs, 4 metres, 1 pass, 17 out of 18 tackles. Hopefully you heard all that above that bin. 17 out of 18 tackles. 1 line-out steal. So, he's not kind of a sexy pick like Courtney Laws, who does a lot of stuff which is, I suppose, a bit more flashy. But he does that kind of core grunt work. He's more like, Johnny Gray kind of thing. Puts in a load of tackles. Does the work when needed at line-out. So I thought he was a solid performer. Next, in the loosies, I go with Peter O'Mahony. And kind of like Guirado, he's a guy whose reputation means that unless he's exceptional, you don't perhaps give him that credit. Like, I think a lot of people would probably give O'Mahony maybe a 7 for this week's performance, but he still did that key stuff that he does well. He only got 6 runs from 5 metres from 6 runs, which is nothing startling. 5 passes, but 11 out of 12 tackles, so he's one of the top tacklers. And key turnover, key line-out steal. That's just what he does. He's that guy. I mean, they weren't, I guess you wouldn't say under the pump against Italy, but under pressure. And he's that man to step up at those times to help shift the game around. That's just what he does. So pretty happy with him there. Next, from Italy, going with Brumstein. So he had some pretty big shoes to fill at number 8 for Italy because Parise was out, but he put in a kind of Herculean effort. He was one of the best players of the weekend. 15 runs for 40 meters. So we've had a bunch of guys who have kind of been matching 1 run per meter, apart from Dave Cocoyne thus far, and Dell, I guess, to a degree. But 15 runs for 40 meters is a very, very good return that Parise would be proud of. 19 out of 20 tackles, very, very good. And even a line-out steal in there from a number 8 is also pretty good. So, yeah, perhaps Italy in good hands in that department once Parise finally decides to hang up the international boots. Next, I've got another Englishman. I've got Tom Curry as my other loose forward. This guy just keeps getting better. And he's been a pretty consistent performer along with Mark Wilson, to be fair. And Billy Vunipola for that guy to be mentioned as well. Yeah, the English back row has been really good, but he had a try, which was England's only try of the game. 7 runs, 24 metres is a good return. He had a defender beaten and a clean break, which was the try. 25 out of 27 tackles. Now, to be fair, England did made a bucket load of tackles in that game. So England's tackle numbers are pretty much, I suppose, better, or at least higher, than everybody else's this week because they gave Wales so much ball. So 25 out of 27, the number 1 English tackler this week, and 2 turnovers, which is what he is in that 7 jersey for. So good to see him doing that as well. Next, into the back, so going Antoine Dupont from France at number 9. Now this guy was a kind of key performer in that game as well. I think he probably needs to be starting for France probably from here on out. 15 runs for 74 metres are numbers that any winger would be proud of, let alone a number 9. 2 defenders beaten, 2 clean breaks, 54 passes and made 2 offloads. He had a try assist. He had 5 out of 6 tackles, which for a guy who will get targeted in that channel is pretty good. He even managed to turn over 11 kicks, so he wasn't over kicking. 54 passes, 11 kicks, 15 runs. So a good balance of that work he was doing from the base of the ruck. Next, I've gone with Roman and Tamak, or is it Intamak? I've heard different pronunciation from my childhood compared to now, but yep, so Roman, 1 try, 5 runs, 12 meters. He was running the show pretty well for a young man. A defender beaten the clean break, 20 passes including an offload, 20 out of 22 tackles. Were they targeting him as a weak position or what? 20 tackles for a number 10 is just phenomenal. 7 kicks in that performance as well. Could have had a try assist, but that was chalked off. His little kick over to Gael Fiku. So, yeah, pretty mature performance from the young man. Another one, I think him and Dupont need to just be that 9-10 combo and just give them license to kind of run, give them some game time together and just see how that partnership develops. Hopefully a wee bit better in time for the World Cup. Midfielders are gone with Hadley Parkes from Wales. So interestingly, he's a guy who's known for his defence, but 12 runs, 78 metres, pretty good numbers. 4 defenders beaten, again, good numbers. 1 clean break, 3 passes, 10 out of 11 tackles. Admittedly, he had 2 kind of turnovers conceded, which is not ideal, but he was a pretty safe and good attacking pair of hands in that midfield for Wales. So given how good that English midfield has been in the first couple of rounds, it was good to see him step up for that one. And next, I've also gone with, from France, Gael Fiku. Mentioned him earlier. Could have had a try, but it was denied by the TMO. 15 runs for 54 metres, 6 defenders beaten. Good numbers, 3 clean breaks, 5 passes, and offload. Again, 15 out of 16 tackles. So defensively solid, which was something we've been needing to see from France for a while. Some of these guys put in a shift, which is kind of an about time moment for most of us, but France starting to look like France, at least in that one game. Can they keep it up is anybody's guess, but hey, encouraging signs. We know he's a good player, and he put in a good performance. Even Bustero looked pretty good, so yeah. Next, Jacob Stockdale. proper player, this guy. 1 try, 10 runs, 151 meters. I mean, largely 2 big runs. One was his try, and one was when Italy missed that penalty towards the end, and he just went on a barracking run. 9 defenders beaten, 2 clean breaks. He is a big boy, and he's hard to bring down. 4 passes. Again, if I'm playing devil's advocate, 2 out of 4 tackles is not that flash, but for wingers, it's pretty common given the way they have to defend sometimes. And 3 turnovers conceded again is not. It's not a flawless performance, but man, the guy, when he's got the ball in hand, is just so dangerous. Would you believe there's another bin coming down my driveway? A guy who definitely does not belong in the bin, the guy who probably should have been, I don't think he was man of the match, but he probably should have been. Liam Williams from Wales. There was always going to be a lot of pressure on him, given that England had been kicking so much ball in their first 2 games. And this guy was like, sure, give me the ball. He's going to sweep it, he's going to clean it up, and he's going to hit you back on the counter, or he's going to kick it well. Yeah, man, this guy was just everywhere for Wales. He had 18 runs, 52 meters, 4 defenders beaten, a clean break, 3 passes, 2 out of 3 tackles, a turnover. The stats really don't do him justice because it doesn't just let you know how secure Wales were at the back. I mean, England still had their moments where the kicking was putting Wales under pressure, but with Williams back there, you really felt like it is secure, it is safe. So I guess that shows you playing a specialist 15 who's just world class is going to make a difference. And lastly, I've gone with Josh Adams from Wales. He had 9 runs, 29 meters, a defender beaten, 2 clean breaks, 4 passes, and 5 out of 6 tackles. And there's nothing there that's all that startling compared to some of the other performers of the weekend. Jaden Hayward from Italy had stats that were just mind-blowing. But I think sometimes you got to give credit to the guy who just has that clutch moment that is kind of game-changing. And his try, that take, that aerial, like the jump, the receipt, the bobble, and then recovery, and then the ability to just run through and get that ball over the line was a game changer. That was game over at that moment. And if he doesn't do that, I mean, there wasn't that much time left, but you never know. Yeah, absolute key moment, and he was the man for that moment, so it was a great thing to see. That's my team. 15 of my best players for Six Nations over the weekend. Do let me know your guys' thoughts on who you would have had in the team, because as I said, there are plenty of other guys who could have made it. Some positions were harder than others, but loose forwards particularly tough. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.